This podcast is brought to you by the Orlando Economic Partnership. Welcome to the City Playbook, a new podcast that's going to take you behind the ideas, the innovation, and the initiatives shaping the future of Orlando. I'm Tim Giuliani, President and CEO of the Orlando Economic Partnership. If you've ever wondered what it takes to make a city a place people want to live, play, build, belong, develop, then this is the show for you. This is for policymakers, business leaders, students, residents, anyone that's paying attention to how the future of Orlando is taking shape. We're going to have conversations that typically happen behind closed doors, give you access to the decision makers and the difference makers that are shaping the future of Central Florida. So if you're curious about what's next for Orlando, and join us as we build the city together. Welcome to this episode of the City Playbook. I had an opportunity to sit down with Brooke Myers from Velocity Red, an urban developer based here in Orlando, instrumental into the Creative Village project. She shares a lot about urbanism, about how to make a great downtown, about where the future is headed, about the trends since COVID. I hope you'll enjoy it. In the meantime, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Now on to our conversation with Brooke. Thanks for joining me, Brooke. I'd love to start off, let's make sure everyone gets to know you a little bit. Give us a little bit of your background, and particularly, how you've grown your business here in Orlando.
I grew up in Florida. I grew up just north of Daytona Beach in a town called Ormond Beach. I left Florida.
I'm actually from a town just north of that, St. Augustine.
Oh, so. Are you? I don't think I
far.
remember that.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So I went, I grew up there. I went to college in Atlanta. So I got out of the state for a little while, lived in California for a little while, and then ultimately went to business school in Chicago. So I've lived outside of the state for about 10 years. But as my husband and I were deciding to start a family, we really wanted to, there was a draw to come back to Orlando or to Florida in general. And we specifically chose Orlando. We liked the size of it at the time. It reminded us of our time in Atlanta. It was very similar to Atlanta in its growth pattern, but maybe 10, 15 years delayed.
Yeah.
And so we thought that we could come here and really be a great place to start a family.
Okay.
So that's the family side of it. The business side of it.
Yeah.
What brought me here was Disney. So I ultimately got a job with Disney. I was getting out of grad school. I thought I needed that, traditional corporate job to do a little bit more on the job training.
Sure.
So I came to work for Disney and was with Disney for about 10 years.
Okay.
And then during the
So what did you focus on at Disney?
So at Disney, I was in their business development group. So I worked the first 5 years. It was primarily new business projects for theme parks. I worked on the Disney Cruise Line for a while, worked on hotels. So it was about new growth projects within the company. Okay. And then the second 5 years, it was more specific to real estate. So at that point, during my tenure there, I love the story. One of my favorite projects was a land strategy for all of Disney. So we were looking at the Orlando land holdings.
Too.
Yep. And I'll tell you, this
is like city planning.
It really is. And they have so much land and so much opportunity. So at that point, they had 30,000 acres and about half of it was wetlands. So really 15,000 acres. And about 10,000 of it had already been developed. So there were 5,000 acres left, but it was all in different pockets around Central Florida, within the same footprint, but all in different pockets. So we actually did this land strategy planning to look at what those pockets could be. And that's how we ultimately came up with the Four Seasons Resorts and Golden Oak, and then on the west side of property, Flamingo Crossings, which is the new tourist corridor. So really the last 5 years of my career there was focused on real estate, planning, strategic planning, business modeling, and entitlements. Okay. And so that was I loved that job. It was an amazing opportunity. I'm sure. Then great financial crisis or the recession hit, whatever you want to call it. And I found myself back out, without a job, had to relook at what I really wanted to do. And that's when I was able to refocus my priorities on what I wanted to do. I wanted something that was more entrepreneurial. I wanted something that was more urban. I wanted something that was as part of a city. I didn't want to be, in necessarily the tourist or even the suburban market anymore. I had this draw towards the urban environment. Okay. I love tight, dense, walkable urban communities, and that's where I just decided to focus my career after that.
Okay. So 2008.
2009, probably.
2009. Yep. Okay. So talk about the formation of your company, kind of what got you started. What was it? A client relationship? Was it a project? Like what was it that got you on your way?
It's an interesting story. So I think they laid off my group early 2009. And at that point, the market was just at the bottom.
Right.
There was no reason to even look for a job. If I sent a resume, it was just going right in the trash.
Yeah.
So I really took some time. I also had a young family at the time. So I took some time. Right. I took about 6 or 8 months just off completely, not even thinking about it. So I took some time, focused on the family, tried to recenter myself. Yep. It was an amazing opportunity. But, you know, as time went by.
Did it feel like an amazing opportunity at the time?
It you know, I think everything happens for a reason.
It does.
It does.
It's just in hindsight, that was pivotal.
Oh, well, I mean, of course, getting laid off is not, you know, that's
right. That was pivotal,
jarring.
Though.
Yes.
Right.
But again, I think the way when I came home and told my husband about it, I said, I guess I'm not supposed to be working at Disney any longer. I mean, that was my attitude. That's just the way. And I wasn't really worried about the future. I knew something would materialize, and if not, I was going to make it happen.
Yeah.
So it really gave me an opportunity to rethink.
Yep.
I also, as great as that experience was, I'm not sure I was the perfect fit for a big corporation.
Right.
That's just not, you know, the way I'm wired.
Sure.
So I think, would I have ever left on my own? Probably not.
Right.
But getting pushed out the door makes you.
Yeah. So here you are. You clear your mind.
Yeah.
A few months later, and then you start thinking about what's next, I guess.
And I started thinking about what's next and what excites me.
Yeah.
I did a lot of soul searching. I looked at, maybe I wanted to go work for a nonprofit like Habitat for Humanity.
Sure.
Maybe I wanted to go work for, you know, a big development company, because I really did have a passion for real estate. But at the end of the day, I just had this entrepreneurial bug. I wanted to be a little bit more control of my own destiny and my own future. And so I talked to a lot of people in the industry. And ultimately, I gave, I'd known a guy named Craig Usler through a friend at Disney. And I gave him a call. I said, hey, what are you working on? Do you need some help? And he said, yeah, let's meet for lunch tomorrow. And if you guys know Craig, I mean,
that sounds about right.
Yeah. But you know, for him to like set something up tomorrow, you're like, I'm on his radar screen. Yeah. So anyway, so we had lunch, we started talking about it, and, you know, the rest is history. So, you know, we ultimately set it up. I like to say we ultimately set it up like 2 independent companies. Uh-huh. And I joke that was our built-in prenuptial agreement, because if things didn't work out, I could easily just separate and still have my own brand and my own identity. But at the same time, we were chasing the Creative Village project at the city. The city had put out an RFP. Yeah, I can talk about that in a minute, but they'd put out an RFP. We started chasing it. It was an exciting project because we knew it's not just real estate development. It's not just about making money. It's about a legacy project that's going to change the face of a city. Right. And so we ultimately won the RFP, and we've been attached at the hip ever since. Okay. Yeah. So quite the project. Yeah. So first, let's start with what is Creative Village. Maybe what was the idea, and then what is it today? So if you rewind back to the mid 2005, 2006, the city was embarking on the venues project. So they knew that they were going to move the Amway Arena. They were going to build the Amway Center. Right. And they knew once they relocated the Amway Arena, they were going to have 68 acres adjacent to downtown Orlando, and they needed a plan. They needed a plan. They needed a partner. They didn't really know what it was going to be, but they knew it was an opportunity. Sure. So the city put together a task force. I coincidentally named the Creative Village Task Force. Okay. So they put together a task force to figure out what they could do with the land. And at that point, the city recognized, I give them a lot of credit, they recognized that Orlando already had a significant amount of technology companies, but they were kind of scattered all over the Central Florida landscape. Right. And therefore, nobody knew we had a technology community because they were just in pockets. Yeah. Nobody knew we were a technology city. I mean, we have the ride and show out for the theme parks, obviously. We have the modeling and simulation with the military and the Space Coast. Huge industries here. Huge industries. I mean, I just learned recently, so modeling and simulation, it's an $11 billion industry here. It's amazing. And it's a lot of small companies too. Right. But we had that pocket, but no one was talking about it. Yeah. And a lot of times they can't because it's a lot of defense work. Yeah. And so there's so many NDAs that all this innovative work is hidden behind. But trust me, like everyone knows these things in their daily life or from TV. Like these are real technologies that are coming out of Orlando. Yep. And if you know anything about the industry, you're right. We have probably one of the biggest clusters. Yeah, we do. The biggest. And anyways, but we had film and TV, and we also had a big digital media and gaming. We already had EA Sports up in Maitland. So we had those clusters. Like I said, they were kind of scattered about Central Florida, and nobody knew us as a tech city.
Right.
So the city's vision was, well, gosh, if we built a place for that, if we built an industry cluster and actually gave a physical location to some of the things we're already doing and really just bring those companies together, it'll obviously help those companies collaborate, because there's a lot of similarities between ride and show and modeling and simulation, right?
Oh yeah.
Film and TV.
And the technologies just continue to
The technologies are similar.
blur.
The people are similar. I know people jump from industry to industry within the same skill set.
Yeah.
So anyway, we thought that bringing those companies together would give them an opportunity to collaborate and grow exponentially, and also give us a physical location where, when the people from the economic development, organizations are bringing someone to town, they can bring them here and say, look at all the technology that we have. And it just sort of facilitates the conversation and helps sell the Orlando story. So that was the vision behind Creative Village.
Okay.
The city had, being a public entity, they had no way to implement that. They needed a development partner. They're not real estate developers. They don't take entrepreneurial risk. They don't take, all the stuff that it takes to put together a real estate project. So they put together an RFP. Our group responded along with a few others, and we ultimately won. So that was 2010. I think we got all the legal agreements signed in 2011. It took a while to do the background stuff, the entitlements, the infrastructure, the zoning, all that boring stuff that no one wants to think about, but is necessary.
Sure.
So it took a while to do that. And then really the turning point was in 2016 or 2017 when UCF committed to the downtown campus. So that was really the turning point that kind of gave us the opportunity to advance all the vertical development. So far, there's about $700 million in new development over there in that area. But I like to point out we're only about 40% done. We've got a lot left to do.
Yeah.
So there's more to come.
So let's stay on that project. It's we actually host our biggest event of the year right in the middle of it. There's a great park, Luminary Green, and it comes alive. But talk about what's the future of it? This probably brings up larger topics like the future of downtowns and urban environments. Certainly changed a lot since COVID. I think the data is pretty clear that the cities that had the highest amount of residential in their downtowns were the ones that weathered that storm the best. And so going forward, it's more of that. It's more residences, it's more restaurants, it's more uses. It's still more, you want more business and more commercial uses, but you got have people coming and going at all times of day. So hotels, bringing in a university into downtown. So how is the vision unfolding, and what's next, and how do those dynamics in the post-COVID environment really impact the future thinking for a huge project like Creative Village?
Tim, you really hit the nail on the head by saying more. That's what downtowns in general, Creative Village needs it, downtown Orlando needs it. We need more residential, because residential, like you said, drives everything. If you have the residents, you're going to have the amenities, you're going to have the restaurants, you're going to have the things that go along with it.
And I would say, not to cut you off, but I do, there's an assumption there in what you said of we need more residential, but we need residential that is going to be active and using a lot of the downtown. And one thing we have in one pocket of our downtown, we have a lot of senior citizens that don't get out and walk and go to the restaurants. Not all of them, but those towers aren't contributing really to the vibrancy of downtown. So, I know I'm kind of leading you into this question, but there's also the young professional aspect of a cool urban environment that's part of the mix.
No, you definitely have to build a good place. People are very discerning these days about where they live, because they can be. People are no longer tied to any one particular city if they work remotely. They're no longer tied to a particular place in the city, because transit is getting easier. That's a whole nother story with autonomous vehicles and everything like that. But I think people they're thinking differently, and they're prioritizing where they live, particularly if they're spending more time there. And so the urban environment has to be done right, and you have to have the right parks, amenities, outdoor space, things like that. You also have to have the right configuration. And that'll attract the urban professional. We're very fortunate in Orlando, I'm sure you know these stats by heart, but I think we're still 1,500 people a week are moving to Central Florida. So, we were able to, COVID was very impactful to the world, but particularly to the built environment. Offices are different, residential areas are different. And then geographies are different because people are choosing where they get to live. And in Florida, we're lucky because we have a pro-business environment, low taxes, great weather for the most part, great airport, right? We have great access. So there's a lot of great things that Florida was able to benefit, and Orlando in particular. So those people are coming. We just need we need people who invest in building a great place for them to land. And that's what we try and do.
Yeah. We just got back from Charlotte. Mm-hmm. And Charlotte, I think, provides a good example. I feel like with Charlotte and Nashville, and I would certainly put Orlando in this category, but let's be critical of ourselves for a moment and really, there is good competition out there. And those are two of the cities. Raleigh's another one. Mm-hmm. Austin's another one. Tampa's another one. Mm-hmm. These are really good cities too. And they've really been intentional about how their growth can make the city a better place. And I think I'm not the only one that would say in Central Florida, we still don't have the bull by the horns. Yeah. Some of the growth is good and some of it's just creating so much sprawl and so much new infrastructure. It doesn't kind of enhance what's already here. It kind of pulls it out further. We're not the only city that sees this happen, but what's a city you really like from how they've managed their growth and their downtown environment, and who do you think has really just set the bar for that?
I'm actually going to reverse that and start with a city that I think we might not want to emulate, and that's one of my cities I lived in for a long time was Atlanta. So I do love Atlanta. They've got great assets. They've got it's just a great place to be. Yeah. They have no geographical constraints. If you think about the way Atlanta's grown, they just grow out and out and out. And
there's no mountain range. There's no ocean.
Exactly. Yeah. So the communities that actually grow up instead of out usually have a constraint like that. Yeah. Where I'm going with this is Orlando doesn't really have many constraints.
We don't have that either.
Exactly. Land is cheap. So yeah. So it's one of the cities I've admired is Tampa. Mm-hmm. They've got constraints. They can't grow because of the water. And when I moved to Orlando, I think Tampa and Orlando were somewhat neck and neck. Yeah. Tampa, I hate to say it, but they've kind of started to progress ahead of Orlando. And there's a few things. They do have water. People like to be near the water. They have professional sports teams. We have we have basketball and soccer, but they've got football if that matters. But the big one, I think the big difference with Tampa is they have a billionaire investing in their downtown. So look, we're doing all we can, but we're not billionaires.
I've made this comment multiple times. Yeah. Just any economic development conference I've ever gone to, and it's like the new shiny project is being unveiled or shared. It's always from a billionaire.
We all need we need a billionaire.
And, so really, how do you get people investing serious money into your city?
And I think that takes time. I always joke. Think about if Tavistock and Joe Louis had invested in downtown instead of Lake Nona. Lake Nona is amazing, but what if we brought that downtown? So everyone needs a billionaire. We don't have one that I'm aware of. And I think that just some of that takes time, particularly in Orlando. We have a lot of wealth, and we have a lot of families. We have citrus families and farming families, but they're not. They're not as visionary necessarily as some of the, some of the Joe Lewis's of the world or the,
So how do you, going back to Atlanta, how do you not become Atlanta? What's it going to take?
That's tough. I actually suggested we do a case study at one point about how not to grow and use Atlanta. I hate to diss on Atlanta because I actually really enjoy it, but the traffic is just
there's one thing, visiting is one thing. Yeah. Living your day-to-day life is
living there is just tough. So, and a lot of it is planning and when I say planning, I mean city planning.
Yeah.
I think the county actually did something really smart with their vision plan.
Yep.
Not sure if that's going to make it through the current political environment, but really you're trying
the orange code.
You're trying to densify in areas where you should densify and then leave other areas more rural. I mean, that's all you do. You just kind of try and condense it. It's not rocket science. So you kind of need code, and then you also need developers that are that buy into that.
Yeah.
I tell you what, it's a heck of a lot easier to do a subdivision out in the middle of nowhere, 50-foot lots, pop out a bunch of homes. People will buy them.
Yes.
But you need people that are doing the complicated stuff. What we do is not easy. It takes a lot of effort.
You can't, and I think what you're alluding to is, because of the old code here, you had to separate commercial uses, industrial uses, residential uses. And really what these great cities have in common is they mix the uses. And it creates vibrancy throughout the day and into the evening, into the night. And it cuts down on the distance people have to travel, the suburban nature of Orlando. I think what's interesting now is that we're seeing some really cool areas pop up for this to solve for this very challenge. You can only build so many roads. You can only expand them so many times. We're still trying to invest more in transit, but it takes so much time. But you've got a great downtown in Winter Garden.
Yeah.
You've got a great downtown in Sanford. You've got Kissimmee, who's redeveloping their downtown. You have these nodes throughout Central Florida where they really started. And when we say urban, it's not all Manhattan.
No, not at all.
We could be talking about, 4-story buildings, 7-story buildings, but places that have some walkability to it. And there's not, when you think about it, there's not a great city in the world that you would save up for a year or two to go with your family for a vacation that doesn't have a walkable, thriving downtown area. There just don't exist. I mean, you have to have that.
And it's funny, that's as I was reorganizing my life after life with Disney, I was in that suburban neighborhood. I lived in Dr. Phillips. It was beautiful. I would bring my kids to go to school, drop them off at school in downtown Orlando, and I'd get back in the car and drive to Celebration. So, I mean, it was a grind.
Yeah.
And so I kind of became an urbanist by experience. I didn't read the books. I didn't go to planning school. I just said, there's got to be a better way. And so I intentionally organized my life around urbanization because I wanted that walkability. And if you think about it, not only is it better for your health, there's lots and lots of studies about, being in a walkable community, because walking to the grocery store, walking to the coffee shop, it obviously gives you exercise. It gives you socialization and community as well. So there's tons of books about living in urban environments, makes people live longer.
I think we got like 3 of them right here, by the way.
Probably so. And it's also more sustainable if you think about it, sustainability.
Right.
I went from, moving downtown, I got a smaller house, so I got a smaller footprint. My commute went from, 30, 45 minutes down to 5 minutes. So think about the, less gas, less time on the road. And a lot of my trips in the car went to pedestrian. We walked to dinner. We walked to the coffee shop. We do those things. So if you think about urbanization, it's not only good for your health, it's actually good for the environment. So there's just so many ways, so many reasons to do so.
Give us an idea of how you see that unfolding here in Central Florida. Particularly I would say downtown Orlando. How do you think we evolve? What is the next, get out your crystal ball. Like, what does the next 10 years look like in sort of the best case scenario? Walk that out for us.
So downtown Orlando we've been on this wonderful resurgence. I think Mayor Dyer's done a phenomenal job. He's very visionary. He set out early on venues plan, getting all the venues downtown, building the phenomenal Performing Arts Center. I know when we were getting the professional soccer team, there was a big pull to put that out on International Drive.
I'm sure.
That's where the tourists are. Right. But Mayor Dyer was adamant that it be downtown because good downtowns need those things.
Yeah.
They need a grocery store. He got the grocery store built. So he's done a lot of the building blocks for those things. You need more residential, as you mentioned. There's lots of, all the good cities have residential, and that drives some of the amenities along with it. So I think Orlando has some great building blocks in place we need more. We need more placemaking. I think the new DTO 2.0 has a lot of those items in it.
You and I talk about placemaking, but what, not everyone is walking around talking about placemaking. What is it?
To me, it's just a cool place to walk, a cool place to go, just somewhere where you're comfortable and it's entertaining. I should be able to, my office is a mile north of here. I should be able to walk down here and have it be a, pleasing experience. It's, a cool little coffee shop you get to pop into and grab a coffee on your way back, or sit and drink and, meet with your friends. So it's really just, urbanism is just neat places to visit. It's where you want to go visit. It's when you said when you travel, the places you go to, where you go and sit and hang out. So it's more of that. And some of that is really more it's on the minute level. So the city's working on things like that. They'll do planning, they'll do things like that. But the developers also have to think about it. When you're building a building with retail on the ground floor, make sure the glass is clear that you can see inside and what's going on. Reflective glass doesn't help anybody. I mean, there's a lot of little nuances like that that are the devil's in the details that matter.
See, look, when we went to, we brought a large group to Nashville 2 years ago, and it seems like they've done that really well. Like, it's just nice. Yeah. You can walk from one end of the city to the other and feel safe the whole time. I think I had in my mind, I don't know if it was just me, but you kind of think like Broadway in Nashville, and you kind of think like that's the city. It's like 3 blocks, and the rest of the city is a cool place. And I think they've done that really well. But they've, there's great hotels now. There's great commercial space. You got Oracle coming in, Amazon bringing in 5,000 people. So massive kind of commercial space, but new music venues. There's, 5 great steakhouses on the first floor of some of these buildings in Nashville. And so I thought that was just a great example of how they've improved and matured their downtown over the course of time. But that, how does more of that, we certainly have that in different parts of our downtown, but how do you see that coming to life? Like, I guess I'm trying to lead you into the question of the role of the developer. It's a word that has many interpretations, or people feel certain ways about it, but like, they're essential. Like, what's the role of the developer?
And I'm glad you mentioned safety first, because I'm going to talk about the role of the city before the role of the developer. Yeah. Downtowns have struggled for the last several years, dealing with safety issues and obviously there's a significant homeless population and how to deal with that. I don't have the answers to that. That's not my area of expertise, but it matters. And if someone doesn't feel safe, they're not going to come downtown. If someone doesn't feel safe, they're not going to invest in a downtown. So as hard as a developer might try and get a new project built, if their banker or their equity partner comes to visit the site and they've got safety issues and other issues, they might not invest. So it's difficult. It's not like a developer can wave a magic wand and make a project happen.
No, and I would say with on the homeless issue, I don't have the solutions either, but I know it can't fall on one city.
Correct.
You can't have a density of all the services in just one spot. Like, this is a challenge for an entire community, entire region. And I think we've got to realize that.
It is. And I don't want to say that this is specific to Orlando. It's not. It's specific across, the entire country. But your point is very good. If you have the services, it will, that's where the homeless and the people who need those services will cluster. So then you get a density in one location versus others. So yes, should the surrounding counties and surrounding jurisdictions also be looking at the issue with the city? Then yes, absolutely. Orlando can't solve it for everyone.
Right.
So anyways, but back to the role of the developer. The role of the developer is to figure out, I always say we don't create demand. I don't build an apartment and create demand. I'm fulfilling demand that already exists. So the developers just need to understand what the demand is and meet that need. And like, it's been a struggle the last couple of years because of the capital markets and the financial markets. I think that's about to get better. I think things are turning. I hope.
We thought this a couple of times now, but we do think
I'm truly optimistic this
things
time.
are heading in the right direction.
So I do think the
projects.
I do think the spigot is ultimately getting turned back on for lending and capital projects, but it's going to be slow. It's not going to be fast. And then the very best projects and the very best developers are the ones that will get funded first. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of the ground. The very best locations will get funded first. So that's what's next.
What do you think the demand is in downtown Orlando?
I think the demand, 1,500 people moving here every week, I think the demand is residential. Yeah. And when I talk residential, I want to be clear. It's residential across all spectrums. You can't, and I'm a supply and I'm an economist by heart. It's supply and demand. So if you build more supply, then it's going to help price points across all, right? So do you have to specifically build affordable? No, I think even if you build at the top end, what that does, it makes everything more affordable because there's more supply. So that's a hard message to communicate, but you need more. And based on construction costs and based on interest rates and everything these days, the only thing that pencils for a true private developer is the Class A.
So let's kind of conclude. So we talked about the future of downtowns, future of downtown Orlando, but let's give us something to get excited about the next step in Creative Village as it rolls out.
So we're kicking off phase 2 very soon. We started Creative Village, I told you, in 2010, 2011. Really, we opened phase 1 in 2019 when we opened the UCF and Valencia downtown campus. We opened some housing to go along with it. We opened some apartments. We built a building for electronic arts and opened that in 2021. And you mentioned Luminary Green Park. Yeah. So that was phase 1. And that was, like I mentioned, about $700 million worth of development. We're very excited about that, proud of that. But the way we describe it is that's still just a collection of buildings. It's some really nice stuff. Yeah. But it doesn't have the there quite yet. Yeah. So as we look towards phase 2, we're going to start working on a mixed use building that's going to have significant focus on the ground floor realm with more restaurants, more amenities. So it'll just add a little bit more there. We hope to build more apartments. We hope to build a multi-tenant office building. We have the EA Sports, but we don't have multi-tenants if someone wanted to come in and lease a floor of a building. We hope to build a new hotel in phase 2. And then the adaptive reuse of the Bob Carr. So the Bob Carr is the old Performing Arts Center here in Orlando, and the city's got a vision that they're working on to adaptively reuse that into an innovation hub. Yeah, a town square for technology is what that's called. So that all comes out probably over the next, 5 to 7 years. Okay. And then the master development agreement with the city runs through 2043. So phase 3 will come after that. So there's still a lot more to come.
So there's a lot to come.
A lot more to come.
Yeah. Do kind of conclude with us a great watch, a great read. Give us something from Brooke's world.
Great. I could bore you with books on city planning and urbanism, but I'm not sure anyone's going to read those. So I have a couple. My first one is I'm reading a book right now called, I don't know if I can say this, Walkable Badass. And it's about...
You won't, no censorship.
Okay, great.
We're good.
It's really about how to succeed as a woman. And so if you think about females, women are inherently different than men, right? Where men make quick decisions and they're a little bit more boisterous and they're a little bit more assertive, aggressive. I don't know what the right word is. Women tend to be a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit more reserved. It doesn't mean, we don't have the same opinions. We might just not express them the same way. Yep. So it's difficult being a woman in a man's world, in a man's industry as mine, to exactly know where that is. Should I emulate the men or should I? And so really the book is more about creating your own style and threading the eye of that needle. That's why it's called Likeable Badass. You got to be likable, but still fierce. Yes. And then as far as, I love biographies or stories, personal stories of successful people. And the two that just my top 2 ever. One is Elon Musk. So whether you like his politics or not, you cannot argue with his vision, his drive, his success, his technologies. They're just phenomenal. And if you read the story, if you understand his background, you get a little bit more into his unique mind. So I love that one. And then I haven't found a good biography yet, but I love the story of Sarah Blakely, the inventor of Spanx.
FSU grad.
Oh, I had forgotten that.
Yep.
Anyway, so her story is amazing. And what I think the takeaway, her tenacity and her drive is just endless. And one of the things I think probably helped create that is her family had a sort of a history of celebrating failure, which sounds a little odd, right? Yeah. But what it means is you take risks and you don't worry about you don't necessarily think about the downside. So there's a story, she would, come home from school and sit down at the dinner table and her dad's like, "What'd you do today?" And she's like, "I tried out for the, cheerleading team. It was terrible." And he's like, "Good for you." But it really set that mindset in her that she can take a risk and it's not the end of the world if you fail. Because I think so many of us, myself included, you don't want to do things because you're afraid it might not, might not win or you might not do it right. But just sometimes trying things is better than not trying them altogether. So I love listening to her talk. She's so inspiring. She's done some amazing things and she built a $1 billion business.
Yeah. Yep. It doesn't happen every day.
No.
This is a great story.
No.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing your insights, a little bit about downtown, the future of Creative Village. Really glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Before we wrap up, just want, if people want to learn a little bit more about you, your company, where can they go to find more about you?
The best place is probably my website. It's www. I don't know if you need to say that anymore, but it's velocity.red, R-E-D. So no .com, no .gov, not .edu.
Just made your own
.red.
Velocity.red.
I got my own tagline.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.